Welcome to the revolution in the airwaves. It's The Cure with Scotty and Sully, where we don't just talk about the medical industry, we transform it. This is The Cure with Scotty and Sully, where we don't just cover excellence, we create it.
Right? Hey, welcome to The Cure, Scotty and Sully. Here we are with another great episode. Scotty, we're episode number 3.
All the conversations, Scotty and Sully.
That's it.
Got my good friend Joe McClung on. Come a long ways from slinging soap.
That is right. I mean, spraying it, cleaning the suit, getting nurses' hands from being chafed from all that washing, I mean, I'd have that.
What's the most stressful you've ever been in your life when it came to a forecast and a budget time frame?
You're right. Yeah. Like how much was McKesson in Seattle going to actually buy, or if we could actually sell them after they did, right?
No matter what you came back with, Gene, Doug, or Bill, that's not enough.
That's it. You got to do more.
It's not even close to enough. You got to go get those bulbs and batteries from Welch Allen.
That's right.
Exactly. I'm surprised. I've actually even had worse than that. Those were mild ones. So some of the DJO forecasting days.
You had
to roll it up and go, let's try that again. So.
Oh, that's funny. Hey, in fact, I was just
one of those with a neck brace.
Yeah, exactly. You get whiplash so much. At least you have the product to take care of you after you're done. That was the good part.
Hey, I was just chatting with a guy named Dan Driver, an old DJO.
Oh, yeah. Love Danny. He's a good guy.
He's with a great company called Bragg now. So I'll be speaking at their meeting here in a couple of weeks. So I told him.
Are you really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, with Steve Ingalls there now, too.
Yeah. Send the love. All right. Well, listen, let's get right to it. You and I and your lovely bride and that awesome team you assembled spent 2 days together last week and going through a day and a half boot camp. And, the more I spent time with you guys, the more I realized how many medical companies of all sizes struggle with, I think, what you solve. And you came right out of the gate last week when you did your little opening before I started speaking. And you said, our greatest assets are our people. Right. And you could tell the culture you created, and you and Karen and Josh, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But if that's the greatest asset for companies, it should be their number one focus, right? I mean, because I think everyone believes that, or at least they want to believe it. Right. And so how does Floodgate help companies like that, whether they're saying, I'm struggling finding people, or maybe my culture's not good, some are all in, some out. How does Floodgate solve that?
Yeah, that there is a lot. We could do a day and a half seminar probably on that. I'll try to break it down in a few areas, right? That people struggle with finding people. One is they've got to have the time to be able to go out and do it, right? I mean, you're the hiring manager in a company is the busiest, most impactful person in that company. Right? They have many times customers yelling at them. They have a team to develop. They're the ones that close the big deals. And then a lot of companies do what I did, was just to say, hey guys, guess what? You've got a couple openings. Go find them. Right? One, they don't do it a lot. It's not what they do every day. I mean, they do it once or twice a year, maybe. Even if they've been hiring for 20 years. I play golf once or twice a year for 20 years. I'm not a good golfer. Okay, so it's not what you do best every day.
Scotty plays twice or 3 times a week, and he still sucks.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know if I'd ever get good. So that's the reason I don't play more than that.
I just came off of a 4-day bender, and I went 80, 90, 88, 90.
Okay, I'll take that any day of the week. That's
my wheelhouse.
That sounds like balling. Okay, so I don't know what you're talking about. And so
if you're not doing it all the time,
you're not doing it all the time. You're not going to be good at it. So we help take a lot of that work away, right? Because they could select good people, but the recruiting, the vetting, the dealing through all that, people takes. I mean, we show one company save 32 hours, right? That's a lot of time that hiring manager could do to do something else. So that's one.
Right.
The second thing, you mentioned culture. right? That creates that good culture. And every company's got its kind of unique culture. So one of the things we found really effective is we like to work with the same company over and over and over again so we can understand their culture. And we've trained our team in this program called Hiring for Attitude. It's this questioning and listening that tries to understand the culture. So that way we could say, hey, this individual has those skills, that experience, that, the black and white you're looking for, but has also that cultural impact, that grit, that ability to have that constant positive attitude, the things that fit really well with your team. So again, they're able to narrow that wide field into a few that have the right experience and the right culture, and all they have to do is choose, right? If people do that consistently, they're doing well. And there's a lot of other things that they can, that can be done to get those people's attention, because guess what? They're busy. So you got to break through the noise, and you got to do it differently, or you're just finding the candidates that are actively looking. And not always, but many times active candidates, there's a reason they're active candidates, right? They might not be doing well at what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So, I think you put those three things together, we've really helped companies accelerate that talent flow and make a better selection.
What are some kind of criteria, Joe, that you guys are looking for in today's, just like you just said, my business is 12 people. I might hire, one or two people every 18 months. So I'm not outdoing it. What are some criteria kind of in today's environment for folks that are hiring?
I don't know if some of the fundamentals really haven't changed very much, the people that have, and the things that I think most companies look for and are really impactful is that, grit. Angela Duckworth called me that grit, just ability to keep going, understand, stay positive even when things go wrong. That intellectual curiosity, just want to learn. Especially in medical. This is where I find medical is kind of different, is they really have to learn and almost become that expert many times. And then finally is EQ. I think we're realizing more and more the importance of people that have good EQ and be able to connect with people at all different types and positions, and being able to navigate that internally and externally. So I think those three typically are the main, elements of success. Now it varies a little bit company to company, role to role, but those are pretty universal truths.
Tell me a little bit about EQ.
Yeah. Emotional intelligence. Yeah, as he says blankly without smiling, looking at
I think you're spot on. Pritchard says it, my business partner says it all the time to folks when we bring in, we try to always have 2 or 3 young folks working for us, like right out of school. Mm-hmm. And one of his first things he tells them is, you've got to be curious in this industry, because if you're not, you're never going to pick it up. There's too many little nuances to it. The vernacular is bizarre. The amount of acronyms we have, I don't think the military may come close to the amount of acronyms that healthcare has. Yeah. And if you're not just, naturally curious, you're not going to keep up, in this place. I don't, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Yeah. You've that wanting to learn, the ability to learn, ask questions, and kind of, it's funny that intellectual curiosity and EQ go together, right? Because a lot of times when people go wrong on EQ is when they have too much hubris. They're not humble enough, right? They don't try to understand the other person. So Usually it's fun. Those two usually go well together, because if you want to learn, it's also saying, I don't know,
right?
And so I think those two usually you find them in the same person typically.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the first thing you said, and that's grit.
Yeah.
And I think old dogs like maybe the three of us would have been caught saying, since COVID, everyone's gotten lazy. They don't have the grit that they used to. These kids, the Gen Zs, they're not, bred the same. What's your take on it?
I don't think so. I think we talked to the old guys that managed us. They probably said the same thing about us. Those guys, I tell you what, those, so I don't know if that's ever really changed. I do think, there was coming out of the COVID. We saw Newton's law, an object of rest tends to stay at rest, so it just took a while that we thought to get the momentum, the habit, the expectations back moving again. I think that's, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, moving again. And I think this generation, it's a different kind of expectations have been set for some of them. Like we drove across the country and took a territory and didn't know a single thing and paid our own expenses. And I don't know if I could sell that to a new candidate these days. And we went, sure, that sounds like a great idea. And have my Super 8 VIP card. Yes, that does exist. There is a thing as a Super 8 VIP card.
I had a Red Roof Inn.
Huh?
I had a Red Roof Inn.
There you go. Exactly. No, I will tell you that Super 8 VIP card, one night in Vegas at one of the coolest clubs no one could get into. I walk up, big bouncer comes up, stops me. He's like, "Do you have a pass to get in here?" And I pull out my Super 8 VIP card and I hand it to him. That guy's like, "All right, who's with you? Come on, we're going."
No way.
I love it. That's awesome.
That is cool. That is cool. Hey, well, one number that stood out to me last week was, and you were just talking to Scotty about this, is actively looking salespeople maybe aren't as, I don't know, maybe they're not as sexy as that person who's a top performer and not looking. And I believe you call them passive. And I think you said you place like 81% of the folks who you introduce jobs to are folks who were top performers and weren't out there on the market. Right. So, and that really stood out to me. I'm saying, well, geez, so why would you hire someone like a Floodgate? It's because you're not getting the low hanging fruit. You're getting the difficult to get to talent, and that's what everyone wants, right? If you've got the open to work thing on your LinkedIn and just been there for 10 months, you're probably not as sexy,
right?
You might take that job driving across the country to a Red Roof Inn.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't got time to apply to a job. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. So here's the key. Active candidates. There's some good ones out there, right? But statistically, the guys are looking for a job. There's a reason, not always, but there's a reason. So we get those. But reality is to get the passive candidate, the one that's got their head down, they're working, they got 3 evaluations going, they got leading big teams, they're trying to plan their President's Club trip, right? Those individuals, you got to break through the noise. You got to get their attention, and to get their attention, sometimes you have to do the stupid things, as you like to say, Brian, to get their attention, to break above the signal that's out there, and when there's a lot of people going after them, like in San Francisco and New York, you really have to break through the signal to get through them. But then you also have to have the credibility. So we spend a lot of time on new ways to make it simple, to break through the signal, but then to have credibility, not just our brand, so they're like, oh yeah, I heard Floodgate. I think I've seen you guys before. You know what? I'll talk to you because you seem to know our business. That's what we want. And that's what we try to do for our clients. And we also try to bring that same brand and break through. It's called candidate branding in the HR speak, right? Where they've heard of you. They heard of the brand. They're like, you know what? I'm not looking, but I respect that organization. So I'm at least going to give them 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's really what it takes to get that passive candidate.
Joe, what do you, the folks that are out looking for those people, are they called, are they your sales team, or is there another name for them? And how many of them are there?
On my team, we've got a total team of 25, right? The people that are going out looking for, talking to and working with the hiring managers. We call them talent advisors,
Okay.
And it's a purposeful name because the reality is, we see ourselves as kind of an advisor both to that candidate, and to that client who a lot of times that hiring manager hasn't hired for 2 years, hasn't hired for a year and a half, right, to help them go, here's really what the market looks like. Here's what we can target. Here's, and be that advisor. And for the candidate to say, hey, yeah, you've been comfortable in this role for a while, but as comfortable as best awesome as you could be. And, and sometimes we go through the thing. It's like, no, you know what? You're actually in a great spot. This isn't the right one for you, but when I got something that's a little different, I'll tell you that too. So that's why we call advisors.
That same person's calling on new accounts for you guys that are going to be hiring in the near future or in the future. And then they're sitting down, going through, coordinating that. And then they go out and find the talent that you're talking about, that 81% that probably aren't necessarily looking.
Yeah.
Same person doing all of it.
For the most part, I've got a few on my team that I call talent directors that work and go with the clients, right? They work with the clients. They'll do some recruiting as well, right? So they'll go be a talent advisor and go find the candidates as well at times, but a little bit of two teams.
Gotcha. How do you keep those teams motivated?
It's interesting. I think if you have real clear objective, you're mission driven, right? You know what the clear objectives, we're all running to the same thing, right? And we all believe in the same thing. You have real clear results and give them, here's what's happening. And then agency. I think that's underestimated, how much agency you can give someone so they can feel like they're really running their business, and give them the ability and the freedom to do it. I think that keeps the right kind of person motivated because they see what they can achieve, and that's inspiring.
Well, and I can give you a firsthand. Nice. Joe, would you explain what this picture is?
Yeah, so this is as many of our team we could fit in the photo booth as possible here at our Floodgate 80s prom is what the theme was. Yes, we are a bunch of idiots. We have a good time, and and we all dressed 80s. I was able to get my hands on a bright orange tuxedo with ruffled front in there, and it was awesome. The only problem was it was cheap on the internet, and the first Running Man move I did, the crotch totally ripped out, but,
no, listen, before you jumped on, I was telling Scotty just how amazingly impressed I was with what I saw that you, Karen, and Josh created, honestly. And, you heard me say it throughout. For a living, that's what I do. I go to these companies and we talk about attitude, enthusiasm, and leadership, and creating cultures. And not many have made it as easy as you have. Now, it's not easy to get to where you go, right? You walk in. I was telling Scotty, Scotty was telling you, it's like Google, right? I mean, you walk in, the place is open. It's all glass. He's got pickleball. You got axe throwing. I don't want to talk about that, Joe. Mm-hmm. I did beat him in axe throwing. Maybe I do want to talk about that. He's got a putting green.
And you won pickleball. So
and I won
like
pickleball.
Champion.
But listen, these people don't want to leave it. They don't want. I'm telling you, Scott, you never seen anything like it. It's like a party. These people genuinely are laughing their asses off at work, and it's a real team. I'm telling you. So what's cool to me, and the reason I wanted to do this show immediately instead of waiting on it, is you've created what you are trying to help your people create, your clients create. It's one thing to have recruiting. Hey, we're going to get you someone right for the culture. But if you sucked at it, that'd be a hard sell. But I think when people see what you're doing, my gosh, everybody would like a company like that where people genuinely like each other and it's fun, right? And of course, your prom night was just this Saturday night. Karen tried to recruit me to bring an outfit and stay. But
yeah.
I had the family. So you're doing a great job, man. I'm just, you got to be proud of yourself.
We got really good people. And I will tell you, one of the paradigm shifts I heard a few years back and it stuck with me is we see ourselves as building a business for the people, not hiring the people to build the business. That is the first foundation of flipping that. And so a lot of, is reminding ourselves, all right, how are we doing that? How's our people doing? How are they growing? Are they getting better? Are they achieving their goals? Right. And we have their decade goals and, it's kind of the dream manager concept, are you getting there? How do we help you get there? And sometimes we have conversations after a while, we look at each other and go, you know what, you need to have a goal, but it might not be here, maybe it's better somewhere else, and that's okay too, and I think, having that just open others focused mentality has helped, has helped really create that.
Joe, I love that saying, and listening to you talk, it's interesting because you've obviously built a great culture there, and you and I came up through a cool culture, getting to work for HealthLink and Bill Riddell and Doug Barrow and Gene, and they were old school, but it still was a cool culture. And I know one of the best things for me and that time in my life, and then my time spent with Billy Harris at Silvermed, was the training and education piece, just how much they put into it. Yeah, I don't know if you had to do it with Bill, but I mean, literally he had this book with cassette tapes on teaching you how to actually sell. I'd have to go through were you in the warehouse? I was in the warehouse for almost 6 months doing those stupid tapes.
Totally.
And then on Tuesday night and Thursday night, I had to come in and role play with him. And I never knew who he was. The only thing he would tell me is I'm a distribution ops leader, or I'm a distribution sales leader, or I'm a pediatric physician. And you got to just show up, knock on the door, and go in. And he would play different characters all the time. And he would make the entire company watch me do this. So it was the first few times was as intimidating as could be.
Yeah.
That training, talk about how important, you got to hire the right, smart, good, talented people, but how important is the training aspect and educating them? Going back to what we talked about earlier, that whole, you've got to be curious about your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're exactly right. I mean, no matter how motivated you are to train yourself, and not have accountability it's not going to happen. You got to have that external resource. You got to have that external program. You've got to have something that's, I don't know, maybe looking for the right word, something that might be precise that helps you get, right?
I wasn't teeing you up for that.
I sounded like it.
Scotty would never tee me up like that. Can you tell I'm the one who created that interview question?
No, it actually having that, having ongoing training, and you don't have to do it big and complicated and complex. I mean, one of the cool things we've had going is we do a book club every week, Friday, right at noon, 15 minutes. It's all it takes. We have a chapter a week. Everyone just circles, what do you talk about? What'd you learn? What's your takeaway? So it can have the big programmatic things, but I don't think you have to wait for that. I mean, how do you just, right. They just said, hey, every Tuesday, come in and role play with me. You remember that. That was, so I think a mix of both of those that's crucial. It's absolutely crucial.
Well, and even in our sessions early on, Joe, when we started on Thursday, there had to be 4 or 5 of the folks said, I hate role playing. I don't want to role play. And then, of course, on day 2, they all got up and they did their role plays and they crushed it. Right. I mean, they everything I gave them on that first day, they were and they had fun with it. And to me, it's the only way, like you're saying, Scotty, you need a plan, you need a process, and then practice it, and then have your boss. Or find an accountability partner, someone else in your company, and just practice. I don't know how you get good at anything, right? If you got to pick up the phone and call someone, how without practicing, what are you doing?
Yeah,
it's
not going to be. Yeah, you're practicing you're practicing in live, right?
Yeah,
yeah. Practice. Yeah. You want to talk about practice?
You talk about practice? Hey, what? You see any changes in healthcare as it relates to building the right team? Certainly,
like the
access,
you hire, access things. Here's, I don't think fundamentally the core is that different. I really don't. I think, we talked about those 3, core things we were talking about earlier. The difference I think is people need the ability to not just have a good relationships and have a clinical message, and have a physician and clinical. They need to be able to really talk a good financial and ROI game and sell the economic buyer and be comfortable there, as well as the clinical and the relational and those other elements. I think that might be the only nuance. I mean, it was honestly true when we sold to. I just think it's even more, there were segments where you might not have needed that. Now you need that no matter where you are. And if you really want to be successful, you got to nail that.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, how often are you seeing, and it may be generational, so you may have to take it from like the 23-year-old to 33-year-old, 33 to 43, 43 to 50. How often are you seeing those folks jump? 3 years, 2 years? Just, do you have some stats on that?
Yeah, no, I don't have a high stats, but yeah, it used to be like, oh, he's had 3 jobs in his career. Oh, no, that's, it is, that every 3 to 4 years, you're going to see movement, sometimes 2. Now, here's the other thing I will tell you. It's a lot of time, it's not people that are saying, oh, I just need to go to the next shop. Half the time I look at it, I dial down because I always get the question, why they move? So I'm always asking, couple where it's the right career trajectory, right? Start at ADP, go to, med surge, go to, management, et cetera. But after that, sometimes it's like, hey, went to the startup, it got gobbled up by Bear. I lost it. And then this one, it's just much more dynamic. And I'll tell you, half of those big organizations, it's like national sales meeting is national reorg time, so, it's just, I think it's just a more dynamic market with changing companies, changing roles, than it was. And so most of the time it's not because they're like, I just got bored of it, I need to go do something new. I think there's a little more of that, but reality, I'm going to chalk most of it up to the dynamic market. And most of the people we dive down into, it is things around them that was the reason,
Gotcha.
Well, think of
advice. Go ahead, Sully.
Well, loyalty, right? So I think maybe there isn't as much loyalty. And in fact, I was watching.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah. Well, you go, because I think it's an interesting conversation. Who should be loyal to who?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was trying to see. Is there, is there some stats out there, or what? Obviously, the folks that are listening to this podcast typically are going to be leaderships, folks that are hiring. And I step back sometimes when we're hiring, and I'm like, we're going to put all this effort in. In 3 years, they're going to bounce. And it's like, golly, they're at the 3-year mark is where they really start hitting their stride, in my opinion. I'm like, man, life's about to get real easy for you, because now you have 3 years of relationships, 3 years of understanding the right vernacular to use, 3 years of closing, and 3 years of stories that you could tell. Hey, you know what? I was working with a manufacturer, had this exact issue with private label, and here's what we did for them. Mm-hmm. Boom. But when you bounce so quick, all of that you just gain, I'm not saying you don't take it with you, but it's just different. So that's kind of where I was going with that. And do you have any kind of, not just stats, but any suggestions for people in building a strong, efficient, loyal sales team?
I'll go back to you guys. We talked about it earlier. If you cared about the people, you train them, you give them a pathway. I find companies, I talk about those people 3 years, but there are several companies we work with of our clients, all their leadership team, 16 years, 15 years, 20 years, 17 years, right? Because they stayed consistent. They consistently invested in their people. They showed they cared. They had a pathway. And guess what? Their leadership was also part of the reason their team's stable is their leadership is stable too, right? Those companies where they turn at the top, guess what? It turns all the way down too. So I think there is controllable in that. I don't think the rule is every 3 years someone's going to change out of you. That's the reason I was saying many of the time it's externally their leadership changed out. They got bought out. They sold to private equity, and the people leave as a result because they didn't keep that consistency. They didn't keep that training. They didn't keep that challenge. And the other thing I really think about with retaining great people is a quote I heard, great people love a great challenge, stretch them, and when they conquer it, they're standing 10 feet tall and they're never going to leave, because they just experience that ability to not only have someone give confidence in them, but then to win over that. Those kind of people stick and stay a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the company has to be loyal too.
100%.
Yeah. Right. They gotta have to treat the people right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that's why I love your quote, which you said earlier, right? It's about creating the company to serve the people. And I think that's wonderful, because I think it's almost laughable when you have a large corporation who has no problem firing people through email, or an HR department does right. They show no loyalty, yet they wonder why someone's jumping after 2.5 years, right? And it's got to go both ways, man. You got to be loyal to your people.
Yeah, and you're going full circle, where our most valuable asset we have is our people. You have as your people, you treat them like that most valuable asset, because really, I tease, but it's true. The company only has 3 things, right? They have their IP, which a lot of time is fleeting, right? Cash, capital, which again is in people. And of the 3, right, people's the only thing you can consistently impact.
Yep. For sure.
Yep. You got to go pick up your kid at school, or I mean, you
I got another call to jump to here, another screening call to find out if we got the right candidate for one of our clients here. So, and then I got to go take Riley to cheer. So she can. Yeah.
You're gonna stop by Top Golf
over your head.
You're gonna stop by Top Golf and grab a beer while you're waiting to pick her up.
Well, I might have to do that. Yeah, that's like my the waiting at cheer spot. Shank a few into the net at Top Golf and have an IPA. Tell myself it was all right.
That's heaven. All right, where can people learn more? Let's say you got them a little bit interested. What's the easiest way to get you?
They can email me at joe@floodgatemedical.com or call me, my mobile, 512-468-8937. Either one, or go to our website. Carrier pigeon's name is Bob, whichever is the easiest for you.
Hey, man, make sure you tell Josh that I said hello.
I will, man. I will.
I haven't talked to him in forever. I was glad to hear he was working there with you, that you guys were working together.
Yeah. So it's goes full circle, doesn't it? Yep. So, you'll have to come down here and try to beat me at axe throwing, says Brian did. All right. So we can come down.
Awesome. All right. Check out Floodgate Medical. If you're looking for top performers, they're going to make you better. So great show, Joe. You're the man. Scotty. Love you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Hey, guys. See you.
Bye.
Happy selling.
So long.